Welcome back to Sunday Nights with Pastor Neil. Whew, I feel like I ain't been here in weeks.
I feel like you ain't been here in weeks.
Been here a couple weeks. But no, we kind of back in the saddle again tonight.
Labor Day. And
still talking about the new normal. And I was thinking of this morning, I was sitting in church this morning, and I was thinking about coming in tonight. Not that I wasn't listening to your sermon, Pastor Al. Sorry, I was thinking I had two things going on at one time. But no, I was sitting there thinking about tonight, and then as I was talking to Neil earlier today, and we're going over what we were going to talk about, a new normal, I was sitting there thinking about my weekend, and I thought, you know what? This weekend was about the most normal weekend I've had, and I can't remember when. There was no baseball tournaments, no anything going on, holiday weekends, everybody
we went and
out
watched
of town.
a football game Friday night
Football game. I sat on my couch and watched football all day yesterday and watched a little bit this morning or this afternoon, and I was thinking, this weekend was kind of almost normal.
Right.
But then again, I think back, and Friday night we were trying to find somewhere to eat after the game.
Yeah.
We couldn't find nowhere to eat because everything was closed down. You had to wear a mask, so it's still
takeout only.
That's right. We're still not quite there, but I feel like we're moving in a good direction. So we're talking about new normal tonight. We got a couple questions. I'm going to read them out real quick. You guys text us some answers if you're watching, coming back. Think about these questions as we go through our text. Text us answers all throughout the day. Most of you got Neil's number. Neil's number is 803. Give me your number. 803-316-6952. 803-316-6952. My number is 803-406-0426. So shoot us a text. I need to answer your questions as we go through these. But question number one, have you ever needed to stand up for someone, whether a person or a group of people, who could not stand up for themselves? Or perhaps someone has defended you when you couldn't stand up for yourself? Question number one. Question number two, how might God use uncomfortable situation and life changes to help us be of service to Him and to others? That's a good one. Number three, in what ways have you seen social media used to better someone's situation? We talk about all the time how negative social media can be, but it can also be positive. So when's a situation that's been better someone's situation as for social media? And then number four, the last question, in recent weeks or months, for what or whom have you needed to be brave? So there's a couple of things to think about. We're going to talk about, believe it or not, we're going to talk about Esther tonight. Neil wore his Esther shirt today.
And didn't even realize, I really didn't. It didn't dawn on me. I bought this. Those of you that know Shelly Richardson, she is the athletic department secretary at Sumter High School. Her daughter was going on a mission trip, and little plug, Shelly. She was selling these shirts for a fundraiser, so I bought 3 different colors just to try to support her daughter. And it says, perhaps you were created for such a time as this, Esther 4:14. And I threw this shirt on it, and we're actually going to talk about this verse a little bit later, but I thought, it's just one of those things that you wonder, am I making a difference? And everybody questions their calling or their job. Am I any good at this?
That's right.
You moving in with Josh Wilkes, the all-star car salesman, am I going to be any good? You have those questions.
Right.
It don't matter what you do for a living. Doesn't matter where you're at school. It doesn't matter what you're involved in. Doesn't matter your schoolwork. Is this good enough? And we're going whatever. And then there's always some little moment that if you just stop, and it didn't even dawn on me till Eric even said, oh, your shirt is Esther. And I'm like, oh, crap, it is. That kind of thing. So there's little moments to where it's like that little spiritual shot in the arm that God kind of sends. So when I put this on this afternoon, I threw it on because I was running over to the pool next door with the Nobles where some of the kids had jumped in the pool. And it didn't even dawn on me. That's that shirt. I'll just put it on. Didn't even realize what was on it till you said that just now. So, little confirmation thing.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to talk through Esther. We got a big scripture this morning, Esther chapter 3.
We ain't read all of it.
Verses 1 through 15. So we're not going to read all that. And also Esther 4:14, which is the verse on Neil's shirt there.
Yeah, but listen, when we throw these scriptures out there, please read them. We're not reading for time's sake tonight, but read them. In fact, this story is amazing, and you miss a lot if you don't read these things. And don't just take what we say. Read these scriptures. the pastor has said this, I don't know how many times from the pulpit. Don't take my word for it. Read it for yourself.
That's right.
You know, check it out. See what's real. See, in fact, here's the thing. You may read this and God speaks something totally different to you for your moment than what we even brought out tonight. So make sure you are reading these scriptures. So when he says Esther chapter 3 verses 1 through 15, read those for yourself.
Yeah, this like the story of Esther itself is.
It's a beautiful story.
It is, and I feel like the last few weeks, and the weeks you were here without me, and in the last few weeks, we were here too. We've been in the Old Testament a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like we go back to this. What's our new normal? And
right.
And I've said it on here before. I know you've said it on here before. Don't sleep on the Old Testament. When you're reading stories, these stories really tie in, and
That's
you think,
exactly
man,
right.
that was forever ago. Even long, you think about. Back in the New Testament was forever ago, but the Old Testament was even who knows how much further
That's
back
right.
than that. With some of these stories, they go through these things, but they really tie into today's day and time, and the stuff that we're going through, the craziness, and the Old Testament's full of just crazy stories that you're like, man, there is no way this is even happening, and it's right there in front of you, and it ties, and then you read it, and you're like, that sounds exactly what I'm going through
That's
today.
exactly right.
So the story of Esther is a great story. The whole idea of Esther. She was a young woman who took advantage of her new normal situation,
right,
and used God's guidance. That's the key in this story. As I read through all this, and as I read through these things, I kept thinking, what's the key to me? What really stands out, and it's really how not only was she thrown into a situation that she was not used to, or that she had this new normal like we're in now, but before she reacted and before she did things, she used God's guidance.
That's right.
She really prayed and fasted and prayed and fasted, and there was a lot of things going on in those days where she needed that guidance, and she used God's guidance to really help her do the right thing.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at when you get through the verses. With the story goes, going on, the Jews had been exiled out of the Promised Land,
right,
into another, under the, I think, let's see if I can read through real quick, King Ahasuerus.
Yep.
They were fighting, and then Mordecai, he would not bow to king, and they got into a big fight and all this kind of stuff. But that the Jews had been exiled out of the Promised Land.
Right. And before you discredit this story has a lot to do with racism.
It does.
This whole story is about racism. That's the main topic of what we're dealing with in America right now.
Mordecai would not bow to the king because they were different races.
Absolutely.
And that's how it was actually a racial a racial divide is caused the fighting and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you said, as you read through that, you'll find that out. But as the Jews were exiled, they were living in this life of, outside the Promised Land, and you think, well, man, I know they were dying to go back to the Promised Land,
right?
And you're thinking, I was thinking today, we're sitting here, we're dying to go back to what it was before,
right?
We're looking back like that's our Promised Land, man. That was the normal.
Exactly,
we knew what we were doing.
right.
We knew what we were living. Now we're exiled into this COVID-19 world over here, exiled out of the Promised Land. But the crazy thing was is they had a chance to go back, and a lot of the Jews said, you know what? We're kind of living pretty good over here in exile. We've had a pretty good run. We're making lots of money. We're not having to really follow God's plan because things are a little bit crazier over here, and it's not as much. So I think we're just going to hang out over here for a while.
Right.
So that's where the story is at this point. And you're thinking, okay,
this story is wild.
After this is after they wandered in the wilderness for years to get to the Promised Land.
Right.
Then here we are. So and I was thinking, how crazy and how stupid are these Jews that would not go back to the Promised Land?
That's right.
And then I look at my own life and I'm thinking, you know what? I've done the same stupid things myself. The Lord said, you should be over here.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty comfortable over here. So
right. You know what? It just dawned on me now too. There's a lot of times that we get in trouble or we get ourselves in a situation and we beg for God to bail us out. Man, my life was good to this thing. God, if you'll get me out, He gets us out, and then while we're here, we go right back to the same situation. In fact, the scriptures refer to it is you keep going back like a dog returns to its vomit.
That's right.
That kind of thing. And this is almost what they do. Wait a minute. God delivered you and brought you to the promised land, and now you step out, and now instead of wanting to go back, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't understand
and
it.
sometimes God will put you. And I mean, I've done it my whole life. I know you've done it your whole life. Now, all of us have been in that situation where you're like, God, if you would get me out of this situation, I will never do that again.
Promise him everything.
I promise I will never do that again. And then, like you said, he delivers you from that situation into a different situation. Then he's like, okay, I got you out of that problem. Now it's time to move on to this phase of your life.
That's
You're
right.
like, well, you got me here. I'm pretty comfortable here.
Yep.
So I might just hang out here. And then a couple years later, you're saying, Lord, please deliver me from this situation. I'll never do that again.
Best example, Samson.
Yeah.
He kept going back to the same type of woman in the same tribe that had the same problem, same issues.
Same thing over and over again, over and over. And that's the Jews were you're sitting there, you're reading the story and you're going, they can't be dumb enough not to want to go back to the promised land.
Right.
Because I mean, you read about the promised land and it's like, I mean, I want to go there now, not in these times.
That's right.
So, but this is where, when they didn't want to return, the prophets encouraged them to do it, but it says here, they preferred the comfort and convenience of life as they had come to know it outside the promised land to the discomfort and privation involved in obeying God. And that's a big thing there is they what that is a fancy way of saying they enjoyed the easy life.
They got spoiled.
Rather than the hard life.
Right.
And if I don't know if you guys were listening in church this morning, I hope you were, but you heard Pastor Al, he was talking about being on fire, that kind of thing. But he said one thing he said that really stuck out to me was the Christian life is not easy.
No.
Easy peasy
bed
of roses thing, and we get there's pastors out there that preach the prosperity gospel.
That's right.
You become a Christian, everything's easy from this
now.
side. Now you can live your best life. That's not how it works. Especially the more you become involved in church, the more you become involved in your Christian life, the closer you get to God's perfect will for your life, the harder it's going to become because the devil is going to work that much harder.
Absolutely.
When you're living over here in the devil's land, he don't have to work real hard to keep you over here. I know you've heard that before. Everybody's heard that, right? That's Sunday school answer. The devil doesn't have to work real hard to keep you next to him.
Right.
You over here next to God, he's got to work twice as hard to get you to try to come back. So that's that's what it's saying. They became and preferred the comfort and convenience of life outside the promised land. They preferred that over the discomfort involved in obeying God. And I look at myself a lot and I think, how many times have I preferred the easiness, and I look at it in everything you do. Sometimes, I get myself in trouble with even relationships and dealing with people and not that I'm like a crowd pleaser. A lot of times I could really care less what people think, but sometimes I find myself, instead of speaking up and making life difficult, I'm going to take the easy road and just keep it to myself and not say anything. And I think I know a lot of kids do that, man. Especially in high school, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to get into groups, you're trying not to do anything. You don't want to be that radical, crazy, Bible thumping kid that's made fun of, and unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And you don't have to be that, but there's going to come times when it's going to, there's a time where you're going to be able to have a choice. Here we go, to have a choice to stand up for someone, or to have some that can't stand up for themselves, or to stand up for someone, or have someone stand up for you that. You're going to have a chance to make that decision in life, and unfortunately, I'll look back and a lot of times I just, instead of standing up and saying anything, I didn't say anything negative,
but I didn't say
anything at all.
Right.
And that was times where I look back and I think, man, I wish I would have stood up in that situation and took the hard road and took maybe the ridicule from myself. To do what was right.
That's
right. And unfortunately we don't sometimes.
I've made this statement before, and it was just something that was kind of birthed in me a little bit, but omission becomes permission.
Exactly.
And guys, I want you to hear my heart a little bit. I didn't plan on saying this, but I'm going to. I did not live for Christ until I was 31 years old. And I look back over the difference that I could have made in high school. fairly popular, athlete, whatever. And then I look at the amount of people that, I don't know, maybe I could have made a difference in their life by saying something. I was raised in church.
Yeah.
Mama made me go to church, that kind of thing. And I look back at some of my friends who are no longer with us on this earth, and I'm thinking, am I the reason that maybe they didn't get to heaven? Well, because, and I don't know, that's a heavy burden, and don't play the what if game. We can do that all night. But I think back of some people who, their relatives are in this church right here.
Yeah.
That, they're dead and gone. And I thought, man, I had a relationship with them. What, every ear will have a chance to hear. A chance. Yeah. What if I was the A chance?
Yeah.
I was the only one, and I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's tough. That's a tough cross to bear. And I look back over that. How many times could I have made a difference? What if I would have used my influence for good instead of bad? And we can do that with anything. We're talking about social media kind of stuff. I can't tell you how many times I have had a response, and then I'm like,
yeah,
nah, it ain't what, that kind of thing. And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna throw this out there too. If there are any adults that you're watching, y'all love to bash a younger generation for their lack of self-control and what they put on Facebook. I have been amazed over the last, I'd say, year or so at how many adults get into it on Facebook. And like 470 something comments later, they still going at it. And I'm like, this ain't even middle school.
That's right. And I tell you, it's honestly, Facebook is almost more adults than kids.
Yes,
because
they move.
But you've got a 16-year-old. I got a 14-year-old. Neither one of them are even remotely interested in being on Facebook.
No, in fact, they won't because of that.
Because of that. And then
now they're about bored with Snapchat because you're on there.
That's right. And I'm sitting there thinking, we talk about the kids. This social media age, that's all they care about is posting. I'm like, you know what? The only people I'm friends with is my age, 35 and up.
That's right.
We the ones acting fool on there all the time.
That's right. My dear mom was on Facebook religiously.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, Miss Sims is watching tonight. I'm sure.
I know that's right. I guarantee.
She's a few years older than me, not many, but a few years older than me. But she's on, and they do. Kids are on something, and then they find, the adults are getting in. Let's go to something else. Because we went from MySpace to Facebook to Instagram to Twitter to Snapchat to TikTok, and they just keep moving to the next one.
I was gonna say, it's going to be a year from now. It's going to be something different.
That's right.
And that's the thing. But I mean this right here. In what ways have you seen social media used to better someone's situation? And that's just what I was saying. We've talked so many times about be careful what you post and be careful what you do. And we talk about, these teens, man, they're so hard on each other, and the teens and the teens and the teens and the teens, and they don't do this. And like you just said, you don't even think about it. And you just said, you made a great point. Who are they getting that from?
Absolutely. That's a learned behavior.
And how many times, and I finally, a few years ago, I used to every once in a while try to argue, facts sometimes. But my dad told me a long time ago. He said you can't win an argument with how did he say it? You can't win an argument with a stupid person if they have no ammunition or something. However,
that's right.
Like if when you're arguing with somebody that's ignorant, they can't. You can't have a battle of wits with an unarmed person or
that's right. That's right. I've heard that stuff.
So that kind of stuff. And I used to argue back and forth with people sometimes. And then I thought a few years ago, you know what? I'm not making any headway, and all I'm doing is making myself mad.
That's
right. And then these people, they don't care. They could care less. But I see it every day. I use Facebook a lot in business and for selling things and for promoting stuff. And so I'm on it more than I should be.
And in all seriousness, real quick, if it weren't for social media, we wouldn't be operating with ministry for the last. Social media is not a bad thing.
That's right, but we have to be careful on what we post. We say it all the time, but this is to the adults.
Absolutely.
Be careful what you guys are posting on there, because the kids are watching you just as much as you're watching the kids. And I, me and Stacy talk about it all the time. Kids, they talk, and sometimes our kids get smart mouth, and we're like, we have to be careful because, we're quick to be smart mouth with them,
Uh-huh.
and it's like they're learning it from us and doing it
Yep.
back to us, and then we
Yep.
don't like it, that kind of stuff. So
They're literally, when I'm honest and objective, that I sit back and I listen at Walker sometimes, and I'm like, ooh,
Yeah,
God
that's
Almighty, he
just-
sounds just like his mom. No, he sounds like his daddy.
just like
he
his,
sounds just like his daddy.
That's the thing. It's like, so but we got to be real careful. But back to what we're talking about, the being uncomfortable, being in the discomfort, that comes with getting close to God. There's times
Right.
in my life where I'm thinking, man, I got it easy going, and I'm thinking, you know what, I must not be doing something right, because I
That's
feel
right.
like my life is too easy. And sometimes that's a blessing, and sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes God, I'm not sitting there saying if you're not struggling and carried on, you're not doing right, or if you making enough money to get by on, you're not
Right.
doing it right, and God's not, that's not God blessed you. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you feel like there should be some pushback with what you're doing.
Right.
And it's almost like when you start things, we've started this thing, we talked about it forever, and we never did get around to it. We kept pushing it off. When we finally started, then it became a struggle. It became a struggle to get here every Sunday night.
Right.
And and I'm guilty of having a lot of things going on, and kids growing up and that kind of stuff. But it became a struggle to get here on Sunday night. It was always like Sunday afternoon, 6:30. I'm like, man, I just want to call Neil and tell him I'm not coming tonight.
Right.
But then I'm thinking, well, no, I should be going. That's why I feel like I should be there. That kind of thing. And this is where Esther, she chose. They chose not to return.
Right.
And then it says. It says right here, they were the ones. Esther and Mordecai were among those that chose not to return. But then in 1893, the Babylonian expedition of the University of Pennsylvania discovered extra biblical documents that show how wealthy and influential some of the Jews who remained in Babylon were.
So it makes you wonder, was it the money?
That's right.
Yeah.
The money, the influence.
Show me the money.
And I think a lot of people say, well, influence is just as powerful. You look at politicians today, man.
Whew.
Their influence, that's what they're
Right.
chasing. These people are wealthy. These people don't need money.
Right.
They can retire and never work again a day in their life and
Right.
live on yachts and fly planes and
That's right.
Live lives that we would never even think
Yep.
about living. But they want that influence. They want that power. And that's what this says. They show that some of the Jews that remained in Babylon, they had that influence. They had that money. They had that power. And so, but Esther was a queen at this time. And so this is where the story of Esther really takes hold and really takes into what you can do in your new normal.
Mm-hmm.
Esther's in her new normal. She's a queen in Babylon.
Right.
Being in this new area, this new world, all this stuff. She took advantage of her new normal, and with God's guidance. That's the main thing I want to say. With God's guidance,
Right.
she saved the Jewish people.
That's right.
I mean, Esther completely saved the whole race of the Jewish people.
Yep.
But it's very quick to point out it was with God's guidance. And I think
That's
that's
right.
where we get in this new normal. We get in this new world, and we're out there thinking, man, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go.
Right.
My life is completely different. Seek God. Seek God's guidance. I mean, how many times have we said that over the last 4 months?
Right.
In every topic, no matter what series we're doing, no matter what Bible verses we're talking about, it's always, this is our situation. You've got to seek God at this
Right.
point.
I wonder when Esther was stuck in that position, when she sees the way that Haman and everybody else are treating her people,
Yeah.
but yet she's got to keep her mouth shut. You can't tell me she liked that situation.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, it would be one of those, say one more thing about my, that's my kinfolk, that's my people.
That's right.
They might be idiots, but they're my people.
That's right.
There's my idiots,
That's right.
that kind of thing. So she's in there, and I thought, okay, what's that got to do with today? How does that even remotely relate to what we're going? I'll be honest with you, I hate COVID.
Yeah.
I hate it. I abide by and try my best to wear my mask when I'm asked to. I do. Not being able to go to any restaurant that I want to.
Yeah.
We're in trouble when the Waffle House closes.
Yeah, I mean, we try to go to Waffle on
Yeah.
a Friday night at
On a Friday
9:30.
night, Waffle House closed at
Yeah.
9:30. Whoa! You better get right.
You
God
better
coming
bash-
back.
you
The
bash
redneck
it.
hibachi is closed.
That's right.
Get something right. You look at that, or I can't go to a football game, or we didn't have Winterfest. We didn't have youth camp. That's two of the biggest spiritual
Yeah.
things that my youth experiences during the year. I'm pissed.
Yeah.
You know, I hate COVID. I hate the fact that I can't hug somebody's neck or have my kids in the room. I hate it. You can't tell me, Esther, like that situation. So, but instead of despising it, you said it, as God guides. You know, so maybe if I stop hating COVID so much and say, okay, God, guide me through this. Because apparently I was created for such a time as this.
That's right.
I shared this before. I was having a conversation with David Blair on the phone, and he was just telling me, he was asking me how I was doing, that kind of thing. He called right after Mom passed away, and I said, I'm struggling. I'm a relational kind of person. You know me. I'm not a good preacher. I know that. What I am is I'm at ball games.
Yeah,
I'm running around hanging signs at Sumter High School on Saturday morning waiting on the game that night. You know what I am? I'm cutting up on the sideline with some of the players. You know what I am? I'm cutting up with the coaches. You know what I am? I'm in the press box, making jokes.
Right.
I'm a relational kind of person. That is one of my gifts. I can talk to anybody anywhere. I get paid to talk. Those of y'all say I talk too much. But here's the thing. I looked at that and I told David, I'm struggling because I'm not operating in what I feel like my gift is.
That's right.
And my gift is building relationships with people. And he said, God, this whole pandemic didn't catch God off guard.
That's right.
God knew you were going to be a youth pastor during this time. So you were created for such a time as this before any of this. So I'm thinking Esther could have been upset. Was there somebody to tell her, hang on, sweetheart, you were created for this? Because, as this story unfolds, you look back at the end of the story and you're like, oh my goodness, did God not line this up perfectly? Maybe when we come through this pandemic, if you'll listen to the voice of God, you may come out on the back end and say, boy, did God not order everything that happened right here? We miss some of that.
We're quick to, and I was thinking about this earlier today, we're quick to say,
I'm done.
Well, but we're quick to give God credit for putting us in certain situations with people. Like, if you just happen to, or we see these stories all the time where people just, randomly walk. Some guy's like, I've never walked on this street before, and something told me to walk down the street, and he saves a kid from
right.
And we're quick to say, "Oh, look at God, man! Put that man right there in the situation." And we'll get up there Sunday mornings, and people get up and say their testimony, and God showed up right on time, and you're feeling good, and people shouting and carrying on, and you're saying, "Man, we're quick to say, God is so good. He put the thing right there."
Yeah.
When something bad happens, though, we're like, where in the world is God at? And we're like,
right.
He's saying
That's
here
right.
in verse 4, Esther 4:14. You have come not to the kingdom for such a time. You were created for such a time as this.
That's right.
And we're like, when God puts us in a bad situation, we're going, man, where in the world's God at?
That's right.
But God put you in that situation.
That's
He
right.
put you in this discomfort and put you in this, in these hard times for something. There's a reason you're there. There's a reason we're going through all this now. Does it make sense? No, I can't even remotely figure out what makes sense about God putting us in this situation.
In fact, Haman had an awful lot of authority. We're not just talking about somebody that, it's Haman, whatever.
Yeah.
No. We're talking about a dude that's got a lot of clout.
Yeah.
And here it says, now it happened when they spoke, then let me get to where. Then the king's servants who were within the king's gate said to Mordecai, why do you transgress the king's command? And now all of a sudden it says, when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or pay him homage, Haman was filled with wrath. But he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had told him of the people of Mordecai. Instead, he sought to destroy all the Jews who were throughout the whole kingdom. And now, what he don't realize is that your queen is a Jew.
That's right.
So all the while, and she don't know that all this is going on at the time. But the fact that she trusted God, I mean, who knows what would have happened had she said, "I'm not doing it." Had she not said yes to God, here a whole nation
of people
could have been wiped out.
That's
That story right there. When you look at it like that, you're like, "Oh my goodness."
And that's what I'm saying, that God put Esther in that situation.
Yep.
And when she realizes all this is going on, and that her king is wanting to destroy her whole race of people.
Right.
She's in an uncomfortable situation.
That's right.
But like you said, what does she do? she asks for God's guidance. She prays. She fasts. She gets the Jewish people to fast and to pray
Right.
and to she's telling the people this is going to work out, and they're in the COVID-19.
That's exactly
And
right.
she's up there telling them, I'm telling you, it's going to work out. It's Neil and Eric are up here telling you, it's going to work out.
Right.
It's going to work out. But we don't understand it now. She didn't understand it at the time.
Absolutely.
But you've got to realize that, like I said, God put us here. There's a reason we're here. And whether we figure it out tomorrow, we figure it out tonight, we figure it out 6 months from now,
Absolutely.
or whatever the situation may be, we're going to look back.
And we may not figure it out at all.
Yeah, I mean,
you
that's-
may get
yeah.
to heaven and standing in line, and somebody's like, "Hey, I just want you to know
Yeah.
that you did what God asked you to do, and I'm here because of that."
That's
I mean,
right.
you don't ever know.
We were going through a pandemic, and
That's
I saw
right.
you had a great attitude about it, and I was thinking, what's different in him and me? And all of a sudden, I realized that he had God on his side. I want a piece of that.
That's exactly
You
right.
have no idea what's going on.
And time out. Nobody has sent me an answer yet.
No,
Have you
I
got
ain't.
some
I
too?
ain't got nothing.
Somebody better get on this now. Have you ever needed to stand up for someone, whether a person or a group of people, who could not stand up for themselves? Or perhaps someone has defended you when you couldn't stand up for yourself? Question number 2. How might God use uncomfortable situations and life changes to help us be of service to Him and others? Number 3. In what ways have you seen social media used to better someone's situation? Question number 4. In the recent weeks or months, for what or whom have you needed to be brave? Those are the questions. Reach out to me or Eric. Send us a text. Now,
Yeah, here's a good point as well. Here we are. We got Esther. She's, King Haman is threatening to kill all her people. Mordecai's in her ear telling her, we gotta figure something
Gotta
out.
figure something
we gotta
out.
figure something out. He's gonna kill us all this kind of stuff, and all this stuff's going on. Esther's probably afraid.
That's right.
Has no idea what's going on. But here it says, through though the Jewish people were facing a mortal threat, Esther did not rush to ask King Xerxes for protection. Before she approached him, she asked her people to enter into prayer and fasting, and she and her attendants did the same. She also used her wisdom and how she approached the king. When we find ourselves in an undesirable situation by choice or by chance, we should draw on the same source of guidance Esther did. That's it. That source of guidance is God. And,
Yeah.
and that's what we're getting at here. The whole thing is what Esther did, and you get to the end of the story. All of y'all have probably read the story, or heard the story, and obviously we know what happens. We know the Jewish people
Right.
got wiped out, but the reason Esther was so calm under pressure, Esther was so calm in her pandemic, was she was seeking God's guidance. She was fasting,
Right.
she was praying, she was getting the people around her to
That's
do
right.
that as well, and that's where we come in. We talk about these groups, and we try to get people together, and we're not having services as much, and it's even our regular church services were spread out. We can't get
Right.
it together. We can't. But use social media. You want to use social media for something good? Use it to connect with your friends. Use
That's
it to
exactly
connect
right.
with people, and use it to pray and to fast and have relationships with people that's going to help you through this situation. That's a big thing, and I can connect to people. I can connect with my parents that live 7
That's
hours
right.
away through technology,
right.
through not only Facebook but FaceTime and text messages and voice
Yep.
messages and that kind of stuff that we didn't have, even just a few years ago. That the technology sometimes it's a curse, but use that technology. I don't know how it makes it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because I don't get up there as much as I should, or I don't get to see my parents face to face a lot, but I get to talk to them every day, and that's
Right.
something that's we should be thankful for. Get
Right.
with people, get with your people, get with your attendants, so to speak.
That's
and,
right.
and pray and fast, and let's figure out a way to get through this situation together.
right.
And that's the main thing I think I took out of this whole story is not only did Esther do what God asked her to do, she did it the right way.
That's right.
She did it with prayer. She did it with fasting. She did it with seeking God's wisdom. And that's a lot
Right.
of times I don't do that. I'm probably more often than not, I don't do it because I feel like, I I got this one figured out.
Right.
You know, or I
Right.
got this figured out, or I know God's put me
I'm
in
in
this
control
situation,
with this.
but-
Right.
So God's gonna get me out of this situation, but I don't listen to His guidance, and then I end up making the situation worse than it was before. So we're already in a bad situation. Let's do something
Right.
good at this point. But after she does all this, she gets guidance through them. Then it says King Xerxes did not take the money Haman offered him. Haman was independently wealthy and knew the king needed funding. The cultural custom of the day was for the giver to offer a gift. Then the recipient refuses once or twice, and the giver insists and is taken. Haman did not offer the gift after Xerxes' initial refusal, thus breaking cultural norms. It seems he did not want to give the money at all. It says, but God is in the details of our lives.
Yep.
Psalms 37:23 says, the steps of man are established by the Lord. When he delights in his way, we can trust God knows who we are, what we need, and how we can be of service, even if our situation is unfamiliar to us. So here we are back in the same situation, even when our situation is unfamiliar to us.
That's
so
right.
Here we are, we're all unfamiliar.
Right.
I mean, we're all unfamiliar in this situation, so God is directing our steps.
Yeah.
He's created us for a time such as this. He directs our steps. We go on and on and on. And here we are reading in the Old Testament, like I said, that's thousands of years old, and this story lines up with exactly what we're saying.
Absolutely.
It's a time where she was not in an unfamiliar situation. She was not in a comfortable situation.
Right.
She had the lives of people literally at her disposal.
Yep.
And here we are in the same situation. People are dying. People are all out of sorts. People are losing
Yes.
jobs. People are losing friends. You can't go to school. You can't. Sports are just now starting back up. So
Right.
we didn't have that. All this kind of crazy stuff going on. But here we are seeking. We need to seek God's wisdom to figure out what we need to
Right.
do next. And
I mean, Esther became basically a voice for the voiceless.
That's right.
They didn't have the ability to approach the king or anybody else. Esther did have that rapport with him. So in that relationship, so she's able to be that voice. And I think it's back to when you were talking about earlier about sometimes not speaking up is the worst thing you can do.
yeah.
And I mean, we asked the question to which I don't think anybody still sent me an answer.
That's all right. Yeah.
So we're gonna move on with that. I know. You got one? It's on Facebook. Okay. On the chat thing. Yeah, I'll let you kind of look, see if you can get that one here.
Yeah,
And
okay.
here's the thing. I wonder how many times somebody has needed us to be that voice or to stand up for someone. It's the blessing that was received. I remember when I was at FedEx and one of the drivers threatened to beat me up, and one of the other drivers and most of my coworkers stood up for me, and I will never forget they did that for me. Keith, I love you. I miss you a lot. And in fact, I've told him I need to get up there. We need to go to lunch one day. I need to get up there to him. But here's the thing that gets me. The keys to this world, somebody has to stand up. There's just some people that's not going to do it. When it should be any time. But I'm thinking here's Esther who says, whoa, wait just a minute, Jack. Those are my people.
Yeah.
So if you kill them, you're going to have to kill me by what you're wanting to set up. And I mean, I don't know, here's the way I'm reading this for today's terms was like, he was like this was money going to be into his re-election campaign.
Yeah, that's right.
He said, here, I've got some money for you. This can go into your fund or whatever. And he's, no, I know. And then, you're supposed to offer it again if they don't take it. It's just one of those that take it. But he doesn't offer anymore, meaning I didn't really want to give this to you to start with.
That's right.
It's basically what it speaks to me. So he doesn't take it, but all this is still part of God's plan. And I thought, the steps of a righteous man are ordered by God. There shouldn't be anything in our life that gets us out and in trouble if we're seeking God, if we're following God's guidance. So Esther is in the right spot, although she may think she's not. Now all of a sudden here she is to be that voice. And I look at some of the bullying that takes place on social media stuff. TikTok especially. There's some that no, they can't sing. But that's not my job to go in there and tell them, you need to hush.
That's right.
Especially when they're praise and worship stuff. If God thought it enough to say make a joyful noise, it's not my job to tell you whether you can sing or not. Now, it's different if you're on The Voice or American Idol or something. You're trying to compete for that, whatever.
That's right.
But when I'm not in competition to get God's attention, that's from a heart. That's from a whole different space. And I still see people start bashing some of that. Well, maybe if you did this, maybe if you did that, And then I thought, well, maybe that's their voice. Because nobody has been a voice for them.
That's right.
I look at so many that I'm an underdog kind of person. I just am. I don't have favorite teams in some sports, especially professional sports. I'm not a big professional sports kind of fan. I'm a college dude. I like all college sports.
Right.
Now when you get to the professional level, I got some guys I like, some I dislike. Most of the ones I dislike are because they're arrogant and cocky. Doesn't mean they can't play.
That's right.
But they're just there. And then some of those I'm like, nobody's picking this dude to win. Nobody's expecting this team to win. That's who I'm pulling for.
Right.
And that's what I'll do a lot of times. This is basically exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
If you're going by the way I look at sports, Esther and the Israelites are the underdogs.
That's right.
Here's Haman got all the clout.
You got all the money,
And the king's ear.
That's right.
Till it got to this point. Basically what Haman's telling him, King, you can choose between me or your wife.
Yeah.
And the king's like, you're going to lose that one, buddy. That kind of thing. You make him put money in. I think, I had to go home with her.
That's
Whatever you want to put on that.
That's right.
But I'm looking at that, and I look at the social media stuff, and I think, how many times we could just step in and say, hey, guys, we need to stop this. But we don't, because most people like controversy.
Absolutely.
So instead of doing it, and y'all, that's why I kind of stay off of some of that. You won't see posts like that from me.
No.
I'm not going to, because I can get ugly real quick and sarcastic, and I got to stay out of that arena. But I look at all that social media, and I thought, you know what? It's happening there, but you can see it in person. And I thought, how many times that if one person, the influence that they have, point in tact, when all that happened with the whole racial thing a couple of weeks ago with the white black on the basketball court.
That's right.
But this was actually the other way around.
That's right.
When black guys going after the white guy, I thought this would have been a great time that I would have become the biggest LeBron James fan there ever was, because he's the biggest name in basketball right now, whether you like him or not.
That's right.
If he would have stood up and became the voice, he would have been mentioned in the same sentence with the Hank Aaron's, with the Walter Paytons, with the Mike Tysons, he'd have been the best. He'd have been the best. And I'd have been the first one to say, there you go. Back to the Colin Kaepernick. Do I think his voice is not? No. Do I think he doesn't have the right? No. I'm not saying any of that.
Yeah.
In fact, there's some parts that I agree with Colin Kaepernick on. But my thing is, why were you wanting to be a voice after you've been cut?
Yeah.
How much more of an influence and a voice would you have been if you would have said all that and stood for all that when you were starting quarterback?
That's right.
On a team in the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is where we miss some of it. But is it because we have personal agendas?
Yeah.
See, Esther didn't have a personal agenda. What she had was a heart for her people.
That's right.
And when we realize that everybody's God's people and we begin to have a heart for people, we're going to become that voice.
That's right.
For those. In fact, I'll just be honest with you, I've caught some ridicule for some people because I've stepped in with Tavion and some of those that my African-American brothers, and I love them to death, and I'll fight you over them. Just that simple. I've caught some ridicule for it, but oh well, so what?
That's
I'm
right.
not standing up for anything other than what's right. This is exactly what Esther did.
That's right.
And I think in social media, the way people jump at somebody now, somebody has got to start standing up. And I believe as Christians, that's our duty, because the omission becomes permission. When we see an injustice, when we see sin, when we see whatever, for us to finally say, hey, wait a minute, watch your language.
That's right.
watch whatever. When we begin to become that voice for those that don't feel like they have a voice, we'll see differences start to take place. Especially someone in the spiritual realm. I see somebody when they don't go to your church, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Why are you picking on them, man?
Yeah. I think a lot of times, especially in social media, as Christians, and I've been guilty of it as times, and we have behaviors. Everybody has behaviors. Everybody has, call it what you want, everybody has prejudices. Everybody has biases.
Right.
Just human nature in us takes over, and we there's certain people we don't like, there's certain people we like, that kind of thing.
That's right.
But I think as Christians, we get into this game of trying to find the right Bible verse or the right speaker or the right this pastor over here said this to justify us having these prejudices and having these biases.
That's right.
Rather than saying, you know what? God wouldn't have have excluded a group of people.
That's
exactly
right. He wouldn't
have talked about a group of people.
Whosoever will.
He wouldn't have excluded this. We try to say, well, we try to justify things like, I try not to get into a big political.
That's right.
But we try to justify our beliefs through Christianity.
Yeah.
Rather than really sitting down and saying, "There's no way in the world God would have acted like that."
That's right.
So that's where I think that the whole social media thing is if you really step back as a Christian and say, "Would God post this, or would God try to justify this behavior?" No, absolutely not. So why would you do it?
Now, I do think that social media allows people to tell their own story in a way that they haven't had an opportunity before. Because there's a lot of times people are not going to express themselves in public or whatever. There's just people that way. Adam. Adam's told me, he said, you ever call on me to pray in front of somebody like that? Now, he'll pray for me, and he'll pray for you, but, to call on me to pray like that in public, I'm leaving the church. We make that joke. Julie's that way.
Yeah.
Julie's not Walker is that way. Walker's actually, people don't believe this, but Walker's actually a shy person till he gets to know you or whatever. Right. So I do think that social media sometimes allows that. So what good can come from social media? I found this video, and I'll be honest with you, this video brought tears to my eyes. Yeah. It's just one of those stories that you're like, oh my goodness, what an amazing thing. So Jimmy, we got that thing ready. Let's go ahead and play that.
And finally tonight here, our Person of the Week. We love visiting American factories and celebrating workers across this country. But tonight, one worker who is beyond committed. Not just walking to work, walking 10 miles each way because he couldn't afford a new car. Tonight here, the big surprise for him just today. We were there for it and for our Person of the Week.
Hello, my name is James Robertson. I'm 56 years old. I live in Detroit.
Like so many Americans, James Robertson gets up every morning to go to work. His commute on foot, 21 miles. That's right, more than 10 miles each way.
I walk 21 miles every day just to get to a job that I love.
A factory worker at Shane Molden Engineering, he's never missed a day of work in his 13 years there.
It's fun, and my co-workers, we're like a second family.
A family worth walking to, ever since his car broke down more than a decade ago.
I had bought a 1988 Honda for $500, and it only lasted about 3-4 months.
He said he could never afford a new car. Over time, driving to work himself, a Detroit banker, Blake Pollock, notices something.
The thing that I saw was this man walking down the road at all different points on this road in all types of weather.
So one day, he offers James a ride, and a friendship soon forms.
His commute is just astonishing to me.
The banker tells the newspaper, the Detroit Free Press, then the article. Then a 19-year-old college student reads it. Enter Evan Leedy.
I read in the comments that people were asking how they could donate, which inspired me to create the GoFundMe page.
The goal? To raise $5,000 to get James an old used car.
Within 4 hours, we had $25,000 donated, and $25,000 turned into $50,000, turned into $100,000, and now it's up to $300,000.
First the banker, then the student, then the Detroit giant, Ford, who invited James today to test drive some cars, aware of all those donations. But when James got there, they simply gave him the car instead.
The keys to your new Ford Taurus. And let's come take a look at it.
He was overwhelmed. They gave him the car.
How do you like it?
I don't like it. I love it.
And then it hits him.
You know, if only my parents could see me now.
Saying if only his parents could see him. But tonight, the whole country has.
I feel like I'm just a simple, average guy having fun, and I've been blessed, to do what I've been blessed to do.
And so we choose James Robertson, a team helping him plan his retirement and home repairs with those donations. He's back to work on Monday, driving this time. I'm David Muir. I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday night. Good night.
Do you see what good can come from social media when you use it in the right way?
That's right.
When you make your words on social media positive, James Robertson's life will never be the same because somebody decided to make their voice heard.
Right.
I mean, this joker walking to work.
Yeah.
Man, you got people can't go to work with a car. This joker walking to work, and I think it was 21 miles. That's there and back both ways or whatever, but was 11 or 13 years, I can't remember, but 11 or 13 years employed and never missed a day.
Yeah.
Man, what are you in the world? I was like, great day to do that. And then somebody saw him. So they pick him up. They share the story. Another kid, not an adult, a kid, saw the story, touched his heart, starts a GoFundMe, and he says his goal was to raise $5,000, and he wound up with $300,000.
Yeah.
What? What? Wow. When we make stuff positive, when we speak the good, when we take those outlets that some people mean for bad, and we turn those for good, good things happen.
That's right.
One of odd stories that I heard, and I thought about this, and I've told Walker in sporting environment to always be positive.
Yeah.
Speak positive. A lot of times a coach don't have to cuss the player out when he gets to the sideline. That player already knows what he did wrong.
That's right.
Build that relationship. Carson Palmer. A lot of you younger ones, I have no clue who it is, but you look this story up. Hottest prospect coming out of college. Signs with the Bengals. He had already made some references about the Bengals, and they wasn't good. Wasn't good at all. Nobody wanted to go to the Bengals. They gave him $49 million. But 10 million of that 49 was all contingent upon him saying anything bad about the Bengals or a teammate.
Yeah.
If he said anything bad about a teammate or the Bengals, he lost $10 million. You don't believe that's important?
Yeah. Exactly.
Great day. Imagine that. Let me ask you this. What if your whole spiritual life, what if every day God goes, okay, you got 49 points for today.
Yep.
You're going to lose 10 of them if you say anything bad. If you get to 0, you going to hell. What if it just worked like that? I mean, it don't, but what if it did?
There'd be some
So-
mornings I'd be a 0.
Woo, I ain't lying. Man, it ain't even lunchtime, and I'm down to 1 point already.
I got a long way to go.
What in the world's going to happen the rest of this day? Just that kind of stuff. And we don't look at it like that. But here's the thing. Your one smile, your one positive comment, you have no idea what it may do to somebody's day.
Yeah.
That one person may be the person that's looking for somebody to stand up for them. And by you saying, hey, you all right today? Wow, somebody noticed.
Yeah.
Have you ever needed to stand up for someone or a group of people who couldn't stand up for themselves? Or perhaps somebody's defended you when you couldn't defend yourself. In my position, I've been attacked a lot. Just have. And those of you that know me, I'm a pretty much in-your-face kind of guy. What you see is what you get. I don't hold back my thoughts. Sometimes I probably should, but I don't. You want to know what I think? Ask me. I'll tell you. Now, that puts me in a position to where sometimes the friend list is very, very short. But at the same time, I'm that person.
That's right.
This is who I am. And it puts me there. One thing by being real like that I have come to find out in the last year is that there's some battles that are being fought to defend me that I didn't even know was going on. That'll come back and say, hey, I want you to tell you what I did. You know, that kind of thing. I mean, there's been people left here, go to other churches talking about me like I'll get out. And the staff member from that church has called me and say, hey, let me tell you something. Yeah. I ain't having that deal. Yeah. Now, I don't want to cause any issues for you, but I'm going to have to say something. Yeah. You know, that kind of stuff. Right. And I love it. Then this one. How might God use uncomfortable situations and life changes to help us be of service to Him and others? We don't know if we're not Esther. Yeah. Miss Sims, to most of y'all, we call her Mima, but Mima posted, call me crazy, but I've seen some good stuff come out of COVID. And I believe that with all my heart. We're going to come out of this, and there's going to be things good that have happened because of us being in the right place at the right time, because we were created for a time as this. In what ways have you seen social media used to better someone's situation? We just showed you a story. There it is. How about you do the same thing? In the recent weeks or months, for what or whom have you needed to be brave? Only you can answer that question. Right. But please don't go to sleep tonight wondering, should I have done this or should I have done that? When the Spirit speaks to you, when God guides you, act on that. Yes. I can promise you, I got a long list of regrets that I wish I'd have listened to God on. Yeah. I've got a long list of stuff that I needed to repent for because of the life that I lived before Christ, that I'll be honest with you, I pay for daily. I am so thankful for not second chances. I'm thankful for 10 million chances. Yeah, that's right. God keeps excusing the stupidity in me. Sometimes I'm my worst giant that I have to fight. Talk to you Wednesday night about the Breakfast of Champions. And sometimes the giant that I face is me, or my mouth, or my attitude. And I know that. And God keeps showing up to say, hey, you screwed up. I still love you. Right. Let's work through this. Let's make it better. Whatever it is you're experiencing, don't despise it. Just ask God to guide you. That's right. Wherever you are. And here's the thing. Esther is an amazing story about a young woman who wisely took advantage of the new normal, and with God's guidance, she saved the Jewish people. That's right. You could be somebody's voice that could save a life. Make sure you use it. Make sure you use it. Let's pray. Father, of the week. God, we thank you because you are our protector. And God, when we say yes to you, when we trust you, when we put our faith in you, you'll never let us down. There is something you can't do. You can't fail. And God, I pray that you would help us to give ourselves fully and solely to you, not anything else. Don't despise where we are, but to look for the ways that we can make a difference in somebody's life. God, I pray that you'd give us a burden for those who can't defend themselves, to be a defender of the faith. God, we love you. We thank you for all things. It's in your name we live and we pray. Amen. You guys pay attention. Our social media outlets are next coming up for some special announcements. Getting a little excited. Love you guys. Good night.